I Googled it. The distance from Egypt to Canaan, it was like what, 460 hours. 460 kilometers, I think, and it will usually take you, if you only walk hike like 10 hours a day, that will take you maybe several days. Less than a month to be able to make it there. If you walk straight, then you could actually be there early. Okay, and but it did not happen though. Instead of being there soon enough, it took them more than 40 years. Yeah. What happened? Okay. Now it says here in Great Controversy, it was not the will of God that Israel should wander 40 years in the wilderness. That was not his design. He desired to lead them directly to the land of Canaan and establish them there a holy, happy people. But they could not enter in because of what? Unbelief. Hebrews 3 verse 19. Because of their backsliding and apostasy, they perished in the desert. And others were raised up to enter the promised land. So in other words, the first generation, the 600,000, remember 600,000 came out of Egypt. In that generation, they could not enter in because of unbelief and apostasy. We know the story that the children of Israel, who was the leading murmurers, the leading murmurers in that last generation. They said that the mixed multitude was causing the problem, mixed multitude. They were called mixed multitude because they mingled with unbelievers, So it says here that in like manner, it was not the will of God that the coming of Christ should be so long delayed, and his people should remain so many years in this world of sin and sorrow. But unbelief separated them from God. As they refused to do the work which he had appointed them, others were raised up to proclaim the message. In mercy to the world, Jesus delays his coming that sinners may have an opportunity to hear the warning and find in him a shelter before the wrath of God shall be poured out. So in other words, it is a blessing also that his coming is delayed so that many more sinners may have the opportunity to come to Christ. Okay? But we should have been there. It says there in 1844, 2 years after that, Christ could have come. But it did not happen. Okay? Why? Because people refuse to do the work. The warning message says that come out, All nations have drunk of the wine of Babylon, but no, that's not time to give that message yet. So sometimes you got to allow things to happen. And that's why it says here in 1 Corinthians 10, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 12. Now these things were our examples to the intent we should not lust after evil things, as they also lusted. Neither be idolaters, as were some of them. Now we know what is the word idolaters, right? We can become an idol. We can become an idolater if we idolize something. Anything could be an idol. And if we cherish those things, we are idolaters. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Okay? Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell in one day 320,000. 23,000 fell. Neither let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted, and were destroyed of serpents. Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured, and were destroyed of the destroyer. Now all these things happen unto them for examples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. Now going to this border, Canaan, they have to pass the land of the Amorites. Now, the land of the Amorites, the king of the Amorites was Sihon. Okay, Sihon, king of the Amorites. Now they have to defeat these people in order to be able to be in the land of Canaan. Now, as they are actually crossing this, remember the children of Israel at this time, they don't know nothing. They don't know about fight. They don't know how to fight. They have not experienced the battle yet. Okay? So Moses was leading the children of Israel. It says here that the route to the Jordan which the Israelites desired to pursue lay directly through this territory. And Moses sent a friendly message to Sihon, the Amorite king, at his capital. Let me pass through that land. I will go alone by the highway. I will neither turn unto the right hand nor to the left. Now, of course, when you're crossing this, you might be hungry, you might be thirsty, but Moses said, thou shalt sell me meat for money. I'm not going to, devour your food there without anything, but I'm going to pay you that I may eat, and give me water for money that I may drink. Only I will pass through on my feet. Now, what was the answer here? The answer was a decided refusal. And all the hosts of the Amorites were summoned to oppose the progress of the invaders. This formidable army struck terror to the Israelites, who were poorly prepared for an encounter with well-armed and well-disciplined forces. So far as skill in warfare was concerned, their enemies had the advantage. So all human appearance, a speedy end would be made of Israel. That was the point of view when it comes to the battle. Israel is nothing. They're going to be lost easily by this Amorites. But what did the leader do? Moses, to the children of Israel, they said, "There's no way that we're going to go ahead and go to the land of Canaan. We're gonna fail here. We're gonna die." But remember, God promised to Abraham that I will give you this land, and I'm going to be with you as long as you obey me. So Moses, as he was looking at this Amorites, the king of Amorites, it says about Moses kept his gaze fixed upon the cloudy pillar and encouraged the people with the thought that the token of God's presence was still with them. At the same time, he directed them to do all that human power could do in preparing for war. Their enemies were eager for battle and confident that they would blot out the unprepared Israelites from the land. But from the possessor of all lands, and the mandate had gone forth to the leader of Israel. God said, "Rise up, take your journey, and pass over the river Arnon. Behold, I have given into thine hands Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it, and contend with him in battle. This day will I begin to put the dread of thee and the fear of thee upon the nations that are under the whole heaven, who shall hear report of thee, and shall tremble and be anxious because of thee." So God said, "I will give him into your hand." And the people, don't be afraid. And it says here in the second paragraph, this nation on the border of Canaan would have been spared had they not stood in defiance of God's word to oppose the progress of Israel. The Lord has shown himself to be long-suffering, of great kindness, and tender pity even to these heathen peoples. When Abraham was shown in vision that his seed, the children of Israel, should be strangers in a strange land 400 years, the Lord gave him the promise, "In the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full." So in other words, you have to wait. Although the Amorites were idolaters whose life was justly forfeited by their great wickedness, God spared them 400 years to give them unmistakable evidence that he was the only true God, the maker of heaven and earth. All his wonders in bringing Israel from Egypt were known to them. Sufficient evidence was given. They might have known the truth had they been willing to turn from their idolatry and licentiousness. But they rejected the light and clung to their idols. So what happened? they were actually being cursed by God, and they were being destroyed. Now, remember, Israel was victorious as they passed the Amorites. But there's another one they have to cross. This is the king of Bashan, which is Og. And Og, actually, the king of Bashan, was a descendant of the giants. Okay? They were actually the descendants of the giants. It says here, then we turned and went up the way to Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. And the Lord said unto me, fear him not, for I will deliver him and all his people and his land into thy hand, and thou shalt do unto him as thou didst unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon. Well, you know what? When the children of Israel saw that they were giants, they're so big, it says here, the inhabitants of this land, descendants from a giant race, were themselves of a marvelous size and strength, and so distinguished for violence and cruelty as to be the terror of all surrounding nations. While Og, the king of the country, was remarkable for size and prowess, even in a nation of giants. So when the children of Israel saw that they were actually so big, what do you think the children fear, you know? I mean, if they saw me, I'm only up to this, you know, I don't think I can make it, you know? So when the Hebrews looked upon the lofty form of that giant of giants, towering above the soldiers of his army, when they saw the host that surrounded him, and beheld the seemingly impregnable fortress behind which unseen thousands were entrenched, the hearts of many in Israel quaked with fear. Maybe they were crying for Moses. I don't think we can make it, you know. But what did the leader, you know, do? Moses. Moses was the leader here. He was the one bringing the people. But the people don't have the appetite to fight because these people are so big. But Moses was calm and firm. The Lord had said concerning the king of Bashan, fear him not, for I will deliver him and all his people and his land into thy hand. And thou shalt do unto him as thou didst unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon. Remember that Exodus 14:14, it says there, the Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. It was not the Israel who was fighting actually here. They were just acting that they were fighting. They have to do something also, but the angels of God were the ones fighting for them. And that's why they were victorious. Okay? So Moses was calm, and it says here the calm faith of their leader inspired the people with confidence in God. They trusted all to his omnipotent arm, and he did not fail them. Not mighty giants, nor walled cities, armed hosts, nor rocky fortresses could stand before the captain of the Lord's host. The Lord led the army. The Lord discomfited the enemy. The Lord conquered in behalf of Israel. The giant king and his army were destroyed, and the Israelites soon took possession of the whole country. Thus was blotted from the earth that strange people who had been given themselves up to iniquity and abominable idolatry. Remember, they were given ample time to accept God, but they never changed, and so they were finally, their probation closed, and they were actually destroyed. So with joyful hearts, it says here, with joyful hearts and renewed faith in God, the victorious army of Israel had returned from Bashan. They had already gained possession of a valuable territory, and they were confident of the immediate conquest of Canaan. So they are actually there at the border of Canaan, okay? Only the river Jordan lay between them and the promised land. So there should have been no problem. I mean, the land of Canaan was being promised. It is a land of milk and honey that is, you know, you will enjoy. It's just compared to, you know, just like the story of Lot, right? When Lot was given the choice, you know, Lot, you know, if you go that way, I go this way. And Lot chose the land of the plain of Jordan because it was a land where so much there, you know. So the Canaan was the same thing here. it says here that just across the river was a rich plain covered with verdure, watered with streams from copious fountains and shaded by luxuriant palm trees. On the western border of the plain rose the towers and palaces of Jericho, so in balsam in its plain palm tree groves that it was called the city of palm trees. But when they were there at the border of Canaan, what happened? Okay? What happened? I mean, they could have crossed easily, but something happened. They have to encounter an evil more deadly, it says here. This is Patriarchs and Prophets 4:53. But amid these attractive surroundings, they were to encounter an evil more deadly than mighty hosts of armed men or the wild beasts of the wilderness. Now, what could be this enemy then? Remember, our enemy is not something that we can see, right? I mean, is your enemy something that if you can only see the enemy, then you can fight with him, right? But according to the Bible, in Ephesians, we're not fighting against principalities. It says here, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. We cannot see the enemy here. Okay? So we need to make sure we take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel, making sure that we are equipped with the truth, because that's the only way that we can be what? We can have the freedom. Remember? That the truth will set us free, right? If we don't have the truth, then we are not ready. It says, above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And also, when we have all these things, it says, so don't forget praying always. This is the only way we can communicate with God. With all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. Now, so the enemy, our enemy, is not something that we can see, but what did Satan use this time to block the children of Israel from entering Canaan? What did Satan use to seduce Israel? In Patriarchs and Prophets, this is what Satan used, and he is still using it today as well. From entering us to the heavenly Canaan. It says here, Satan seduced Israel into licentiousness before leading them to idolatry. The moral and intellectual powers are benumbed and paralyzed by the gratification of the animal propensities. And it is impossible for the slave of passion to realize the sacred obligation of the law of God. So when your mind is being paralyzed, you don't have the moral capacity to obey the law of God, to appreciate the atonement. If your mind is confused, you don't understand what Christ is doing in the heavenly sanctuary, or to place a right value upon the soul, goodness, purity, and truth, reverence for God, and love for sacred things. All those holy affections and noble desires that link men or women with heavenly world are consumed in the fires of lust. Now, we're not talking about men, women as well. The soul becomes blackened and desolate waste, the habitation of evil spirits and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Beings formed in the image of God are dragged down to a level with the roots. Okay? You can look that in the dictionary. And it says here that among the most dangerous resorts for pleasure is the theater. Okay? Satan does it, he doesn't give you the enemy to be fighting against you, but he uses something else to fight against you so that you can actually, instead of for you going to heaven, focus on heaven, no, he's trying to block you for that. He's very wise. So it says here that among the most dangerous resorts for pleasure is the theater. Instead of being a school of morality and virtue, as is so often claimed, it is the very hotbed of morality. Vicious habits and sinful propensities are strengthened and confirmed by this entertainment. Low songs, lewd gestures, expressions, and attitudes deprave the imagination and debase the morals. The blessing of God would not be invoked.